Will, it's great to have you in the studio today.
Thanks a lot for having me.
Tell me about VGS and what does VGS do?
VGS is a leading tokenization provider. We primarily play in the payment space, where we provide tokenization for PCI compliance and other compliances as well. And primarily our suite of tools make the lives of developers a lot easier when going through these types of processes.
So tell me more about the history of VGS.
Well, the founders, Mahmoud and Marshall, started a company where they attained PCI compliance in record time. They started that company, and after they sold it, they found themselves working with other fintech companies to do just the same, achieve PCI compliance very quickly. And the solutions that they developed turned into VGS. Since then, we've just been developing a suite of products and having a fun time doing it.
That's exciting. So tell me, how does Snowflake fit into the solution that you've built?
Well, like I said, we primarily play in the payment stack, and we want to expand the use case of tokenization beyond that. And we had an opportunity to develop on the Snowflake Native Cloud, and we developed an application specifically for tokenizing data within Snowflake using our service.
Fantastic. So I want to see, from a high level, kind of an architecture of where Snowflake fits into how the data flows throughout your application and throughout Snowflake.
Sure thing. Well, our app specifically is designed to be sitting within an ETL pipeline. As data comes in, we have a staging table, and then what our application does is that it will detect the change to the change table using Snowflake's change tracking for CDC, and it will exchange the values within that staging table for a token and then ultimately pass down the line. We have a staging process where it can be part of an ETL process, like I just said, or we also have an in-place tokenization as well, to where you can just pick a table and we'll tokenize that table as well.
Impressive. So from here, let's dive into a demo.
Okay, so to set up the demo, I already have the app installed, but when I run through a demo, I like to really set up a story. I'm going to create a fresh database right here. And I have some synthetic customer data. This is not real customer data, just so you know. This is just some fake data that we produced for the demo. And what I'm setting up here is a typical customer table with some PII in it. Name, email address, and social security number. You can see here, that's what the table looks like right here. I'm also going to set up another table, which you can use for joining to it or whatnot as well. And this one is going to be built here. All right, so if you look at how this table gets produced, you'll notice that I have a social security number right there as well. A lot of companies, sometimes that's the only number they have to join on. So it's important that they tokenize this in a way to where they can still join on it so their analyst workflows will still work. Now, for the application, or first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create some demo roles here that we have where a senior analyst, an analyst, and a data owner. And these are all the permissions that they need. It's typical permissions for getting access to the tables that I just produced. So let me just produce those guys real quick. That takes a second. All right, that's been produced. And now I'm going to grant access to the application, because our application manipulates the data within the tables to do the tokenization. So the application itself needs to have access to the tables in order to tokenize. Okay. So that's what these guys do. All right. All right, and step 6, I'm going to go to the app now. So there's my little note to make sure I don't get stuck in my demo. And I'm going to go to the app. And this app has already been integrated. There's a whole step for integrating the app between Snowflake and our service as well. And I'm going to go ahead and show you first data classification. Now, a lot of companies, CISOs and data security officers, they want to employ a data classification framework. A lot of them use red, yellow, green. Like red data is typically things like social security numbers, driver's license numbers, things you can like steal someone's identity with. Yellow would be something like a confidential data that companies would use to make sure they obfuscate email addresses. They don't want getting the email addresses out and whatnot. And then green data could be, a pet's name or whichever, things like that. Instead of saying this user needs to have access to this data, they'll say a user with this role needs to have access to red or green.
Yeah.
And that way they don't need to apply specific policies specifically for every user. It's just a classification of the data itself.
Okay. Makes sense.
So what our service does, and it's pretty easy to add one here. I'll just go ahead and add, say, green for account admin, let's say. What this is doing, it's establishing a masking policy for us the second I do that. So right now a masking policy just got produced. Okay. So now let's go to where the actual magic happens, tokenization. Okay. So you saw the tables that I produced earlier. They were a customer data table and a an account summary table. I'm going to first tokenize the customer data table. Okay, and hit configure. All right. Now this is all the fields within the customer data table. You got to choose the key, and that's we're going to have that be automatic eventually. And I'm going to choose which data to tokenize. I want to tokenize the first name. Now these particular alias formats that we have, when you do tokenization, you can do a format preserving tokenization. Things like just changing the numbers within a credit card, but preserving the last 4, or preserving the first 6, so you have the bank ID and everything there. That's what these formats do. And these things are described on our API docs and things like that. But just for sake of the demo, I'm just going to use everything as a UUID. Okay. And last name UID, I want to obfuscate the email, the social security number, driver's license number, and let's go ahead and say hide Fido's name. Okay. Now let's apply a data classification to this. Again, we're not applying a role to it, we're applying a data classification to this. And you'll remember from the data classification, I'll just go back there really quick. Oh shoot, I have to start over again. We probably have to go do that. Data owner has access to red, senior analyst has access to yellow, and analyst has access to green. All right. Let me just do this again really quick. It'll be fast, I promise. ID. Let's choose these guys. Social security number, driver's license number, and pet name. All right. And then for first name, I'm going to choose yellow. And last name is yellow. Email address would be yellow. Social security number, that's higher risk. So I'm going to choose red. Driver's license numbers, red. And pet name, green. Okay. And I'm going to hit my tokenize button and let the application do its magic. Now what's happening here, it's priming the job, and it's going to set a job in motion that will reach out to the VGS service, get a token, and replace the value with the token while storing the real value in our vault. Okay? You see tokenization started. So here I'm just going to go ahead and move to another table really quick. Account summary data. And here I'm going to choose the key there. And we don't want to do anything with account nickname. Let's just get rid of these guys. And again, account social security number, let's just make that a UUID and classify that guy as red. Okay, and I'm going to tokenize. Okay. Now the app, like I said, it submits some jobs and runs things in the background. As soon as this thing gets started, I will switch to the monitoring slide or monitoring page. And you'll see, and you see I've been running a lot of these things lately. The first job that I just submitted for customer data is already done. And this guy's still running. So while that's finishing up, why don't I just go and show you like what the tables actually look like now. So if you remember from this query, when I created the customer data, this is what it looked like. You can see the data plain as day. But now, if I were to run the query now, and I'll just run this same query, select star from customer data, it's tokenized. Okay. First name, last name, email, and social security number and driver's license number are all tokenized. So that's what really makes the data secure. And what's great about the token is that it's deterministic. So I can, if I tokenize the exact same value on another table, I can still build a join off of that table just as I would before. All right, so let's go to where we want to reveal the data within Snowflake. First thing we need to do is set up the reveal. Now what this set of commands do is, since I told you we set up a masking policy when we did the data classification, well, we need to apply the masking policy to the columns that we just tokenized. Okay? And that's what this set of commands do. First we assign the masking policy to the tag, and then we assign the tag to the columns. And I'll just run these guys really quick. All right, great. Now we'll be able to reveal the data within Snowflake. Now this is important because a lot of the customers that we talked to about this, they need to be able to tokenize out of Snowflake, but to reveal within Snowflake. A common use case is I need to send a file to a partner, and the partner doesn't have my tokens, but they do need to have some of the data that is that needs to be protected. But of course, you know, they can't use the token; they have to use the real value. So let's just go ahead and run this really quick. Now, I'm going to first run it as an analyst. Okay. And you'll notice Now what's going on right now, it's reaching out to our API and it's switching the tokenized value with the real value. Now analyst only has access to pet name, and you can see that pet name's been revealed. Okay. Now I'm just going to go ahead and switch to data owner. And now you'll remember that data owner has access to everything. Okay. Data owner. Yeah, here we go. It shows it. There we go. And let's run this command again. And you'll see that data owner can see everything. There you go. IP address, there we go. Name, email address, social security number, driver's license. There you go.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Now, there is one other use case, like I was saying. A lot of our customers want to be able to tokenize outside of Snowflake. And if you're an application developer on Snowflake, that's actually a pretty big use case for tokenization, because there'll be cases where they can't even have any value in their system whatsoever. So they have to tokenize before it even goes in, even at the front end. So we have an API that will enable that to happen. So the first thing I want to do is I want to say, first I want to find, I'll just have another social security number here, for instance. And I'm going to go over to our API in Postman here. And I'm going to tokenize it using our API. Okay. Send. And you can see the return gives me a tokenized value. I'm going to take that. And this is what would be coming into Snowflake from an outside application running through APIs or whatnot. Okay, so you'll see that I'm about to insert a record for Todd's checking, and this is Todd's tokenized social security number. Okay, and this is the real value right here. And let's just run this. Okay, I've inserted one record. That's great. So now let's go to the reveal, and let's first run it as an analyst who does not have access to the data. And let's see if we can find Todd's checking. There's Todd's checking, and you see that there's Todd's thing. But now let's run it as a data owner. And here, let's find Todd's checking. It would be at the top of this list. And there's Todd's checking right there, and there's Todd's social security number. That is one of the biggest use cases. And you know, for us, the combination of VGS and Snowflake right there makes it really, really powerful.
You know, I love how easy you make it look, especially when it's on as a Snowflake Native App. It makes it easy to install, to distribute. As a user of VGS on Snowflake, it makes it super easy.
Absolutely, that was the goal. What's really great about the Native Application Framework when we developed it, it was really easy. Integrating with Streamlit and things like that, making the front-end experience. The speed to market for it was really great for us.
So, you know, we talked about a little bit about native apps, Streamlit. Talk to me a little bit more about why Snowflake?
Well, it's funny. At first, we didn't necessarily want to build a Snowflake app. One of our development partners, Dakota, who's also a Snowflake partner, came to us and said, hey, we have this idea to build a service where you can actually tokenize data within Snowflake. And like I said, we typically were resting in the PCI world for us. And we're like, maybe, maybe not, we'll see. But not more than a couple weeks after that conversation, our second largest customer came to us and said, hey, we got all this data in Snowflake. You know, you're already tokenizing everywhere else for us. Why don't you tokenize here? And that's when we reached out to you guys and we partnered with you to really figure out what we wanted to do here. And that's when we learned about the Native App Framework. And it just was a no-brainer for us.
You know, I love that story, and it really shows how, you know, listening to customers makes a big difference. And when customers are asking for Snowflake, you know,
absolutely,
it makes sense to do it. So from here, what should your customers get the most excited about over the next 6 to 12 months?
Well, we also want to start taking advantage of some other Snowflake capabilities, container services for one. Right now, the tokenization actually reaches out through our APIs. We want to build a container that may be tokenized all within Snowflake to where the data would be stored there as well. So there's stuff like that to get excited about. Of course, we're going to be making improvements to this app and to the APIs to really improve performance. And yeah, we have a lot to look forward to.
So I love that you mentioned Snowpark Container Services. It really seems like that type of feature on Snowflake is going to be a big game changer for VGS, being able to bring, you know, the tokenization service and run it actually inside of Snowflake.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it really gives our customers who would be utilizing it the choice to figure out where they can store their data. A lot of people who utilize our service want to have control over it. And with the container services, it gives them even more control. At the same time, it allows us to leverage the technology that we can develop for them.
And so where should people go to learn more about VGS?
You can go to vgs.io and learn all about our services. We have a vault and tokenization services. We also have lots of other services associated with file tokenization and whatnot. And this is one of the great services that we got going on.
Well, Will, thank you so much for joining me in the studio today. It's been great having you and learning all about how VGS is powered by Snowflake.
All right, thanks for having me.
Folks, if you want to learn how to build your next application on Snowflake, check out developers.snowflake.com. And if you want to see other interviews like this with tech leaders in the space, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. My name is Daniel Myers, and this has been another episode of Powered by Snowflake.